Welcome back to the channel. Welcome to season 3 of the Freshman 15 College Football Podcast with me, LP Cruz, talking college football with Tyler Moore in about 15 minutes. And we're almost there. Week 0 is upon us in a few days. A lot to discuss. Won't mess around too much. Tyler, my man, aka Bray Wyatt, what's up, my dude?
Yo, we made it. Week 0, another year's in the book. So I'm excited to get this college football season started with, the 12 team expanded playoffs this season. It's about to be wild, and I'm here for it. I'm here for it.
So, you know how week 0 typically goes. There's not too much happening on the slate. It's like 4 games. There's one game I know we're going to talk about ad nauseum, obviously. But it always seems like Hawaii plays on week 0 just to kind of get it out of the way. This year against like Delaware State, on some randomness. But those are unfamiliar with the layout of the podcast. In about 15 minutes, we talk about just the biggest news and notes of college football in a certain format, which is our Saturday Spotlight. Like, that's the game to watch, the upset special, and who hurt or helped themselves the most in the following week, or in this case, in the current week. So those that like the style, like the swag on the channel, hit the like button, hit the sub button for more vids like this. So Todd, man, first thing we got to discuss definitely is, like, it's only 4 games on, right? We have Georgia Tech and Florida State. We have Delaware State and Hawaii. There's New Mexico. I forget who they're playing against. Nevada?
No, the SMU is playing Nevada.
SMU.
Yep.
And Nevada's playing against.
Now SMU is playing Nevada.
Gotcha.
And New Mexico State. I don't remember who it was, but yeah, it's a game. The game's on like 2:30 in the afternoon. I don't know if I'm gonna tune into that one.
Yeah. So so pretty much the way it's slated this week. I mean, nothing too crazy. We have the interconference game, Florida State, Georgia Tech.
Yep.
It's just, I think, one of the tightest games as far as the point spread, 11.5 points. It's Florida State going to Georgia Tech, so going to Atlanta.
No, they're in Dublin. They're going to
Dublin.
Dublin.
They short. They short. They short.
Yeah.
So starting us off, man. In this week overall, I think I know where you're leaning to, but who can either hurt or help themselves the most in week 0?
Well, I'm going to take this back to something we learned earlier this week, and who hurt themselves is Malachi Nelson, Boise State quarterback. Because if you think about it, you're number 1 recruit, you go to USC, and USC, like, they're known for their high-profile quarterbacks. You got Matt Leinart, Carson Palmer, Caleb Williams as of recently. You go in as the number 1 recruit. You transfer from a Lincoln Riley-led offense where he makes your quarterbacks look good. Baker Mayfield, Caleb Williams, Jalen Hurts, those guys win Heisman, and you can't do something in his offense. You transfer to Boise State as the number 1 recruit, and then you get beat out by a redshirted sophomore this year by name of Maddox Madsen. Like, there's a downfall that happened there, because you're going from a prestigious USC down to a Mountain West team in Boise State, and you lose that starting spot. That's who hurt himself, is Malachi Nelson. I don't know what happened there. But like that fall from grace, I mean, there's probably no coming back from that one.
No, man, and I think that's one of the biggest stories. And like you said, I mean, Lincoln can make anybody a superstar he wants to.
Yep.
So I think, when that came across the ticker, I was like, oh, wait a minute. Because, I mean, we heard the fanfare 5-star recruit that for some reason isn't hacking it. And for, USC kind of needs that next star in the mix without Caleb Williams. So for him to kind of transfer and lose big, yeah, man, that's a major red flag for whatever. I mean, it's still early, though. He can always kind of resurrect his career, whether it be somewhere else, which I'm sure he'll hit the portal at some point. But yeah, that's a big one, man. Big one. But I won't bury the lead too far, man, as far as on my side. I'm going to focus heavy on this game, Florida State, Georgia Tech. And I think that the biggest one is just playing the in-conference game for Florida State. Like, you play Tech at home. But they got a big chip on their shoulder, Florida State, because we know what happened last year. Like, they felt snubbed by what happened, and it makes sense. I mean, they're the reason why we expanded the CFP in the first place, to see things like this, teams that have to duke it out and prove themselves despite what the haters might say. But then they have to also replace their receivers. I mean, talk about Keon Coleman going to the NFL, Johnny Wilson, Jaheim Bell, Trey Benson. It's just a lot of talent that leaves. So what it does is it puts a lot on Norvell's plate, but also on the transfer quarterback, who we talked about before.
Yeah,
DJ
I got that in my notes.
Well, see, there you go. Uh, but I mean, if you think about it, though, it's like you're not leaving the cabinet really bare for him. But
Hmm.
it's like, hey, you're the 5-star recruit from Hawaii.
Yep.
You're the main attraction here now. Like this is your show, and not for nothing, he's got to fill the shoes of Jordan Travis too, who casts a big shadow as well. So it's like, hey, I mean, we had a guy here last year who got hurt. So
Yep.
you, as a transfer, I believe 5th-year senior now, 6th-year senior.
Yep.
So you like
Clemson,
you
Oregon,
got to
yeah,
step in.
Clemson, Oregon State, now Florida State. Yep.
Yep. So I mean that's the big one now, and I think that's the biggest thing. He's not playing for Florida State. Seminoles fans, sorry, he's not playing for you guys. He's playing for the Pro Scouts now. So that's the biggest pressure he's going to see, and there's no other place to go. There's no portal to hop into. Like this is what you got. Like you got to make it happen right now, and I think that's the biggest thing. Man, he's the one I think who could actually hurt himself the most, kind of on the same tether as Malachi Nelson.
Yeah, so this is leading into my Saturday spotlight because this is the big game. Everyone, it's college game days gonna be doubling, blah blah blah. But like the
Mm-hmm.
big thing for them this offseason, even though they lost those receivers, they had 5 transfers come over from Alabama. The big one is Roydell Williams, the running back, and Malik Benson as their one of their wide receivers. And we talked a lot about Roydell Williams last year because when we had our episode of the top running back duos in the nation, we actually put a little asterisk in it with Alabama because they had like a foursome, and plus their quarterback.
Yeah. Yeah.
He was one that we spotlighted. I think he had almost 600 yards rushing there, but now he's gonna be one of the premium backs there. That kind of takes some pressure off of DJ, and with 5 total recruits from just Alabama alone, you can see that Florida State is saying, hey, we belong there last year, and now they're making a push saying, hey, we're going to make it in this top 12, but not only be in this top 12 with this team that we brought over, we're shooting top 4, top 5. And I think there's a lot of pressure on them because it's like Florida State, Clemson, and then everybody else. And I think Florida State is gunning for that, and maybe Miami squeaks in there with the team that they got now.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's national title game or bust for this Florida State Seminoles team.
Yeah, yeah. I think because there's nowhere to go but up, and it's kind of what like those teams that kind of make that jump and they feel screwed.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's almost like starting from the bottom again. You got to prove it, but now it's like you're proving it with expectations that go along with it, and I think that's the hard part. Like, what do you do now? Like, what's your second act now that we know about you? We see you guys coming in the rear view. That's the tough part. And again, we're gonna be focusing on this game a lot. So before I go into the Saturday spotlights, I think we agree this is the game, right?
Yeah, absolutely, it's the game. Yeah.
Okay. Is it fair to? Is this your upset special as well?
No, I mean it's not. I'm not gonna get an upset special yet, but no, I
Okay.
don't think Georgia Tech. I think they won like 3 or 4 games last year. I do not expect them to even come close to covering this game. I think Florida State's gonna blow them out of the water.
Yeah, I mean, so I'll be honest. For those who can tell, I'm not a FSU fan at all. So I pray for their downfall. But if there was a shot in the dark, and I think for me, I'm saying upset pick with my heart, not really with my brain here. But if there was a way or an avenue for them to win this game, I would say it's the running game. That's all they got, really. If you look at the offense for Georgia Tech, all they really have is the running game. The Haynes brothers, the quarterback and the running back combined for 1,800 yards on the ground last year as a unit, which again, that's their great equalizer. But on the other side of that, they don't really stop the run well either. So it's like their strength is their weakness. So they're kind of fighting it out. I think the only thing they can honestly say is somehow try to keep the game muddy, dirty. I think we talked about this maybe last year, if not a couple years ago. I think maybe season 1, where Ugale was struggling against Georgia Tech, like really, like they had him, by the nose string. So I think, is it possible? Not really, but is it? I mean, likely to happen in some way if he underperforms, has the jitters, playing, in Dublin. It could happen. And again, the only way they can do that is they run the ball, get turnovers, and they rely on their transfers. That being Thomas Gore out of Miami, Romello Height from USC. You got to force turnovers. You got to make him make mistakes, and that's the only way I see happening. And you know what, man? If you remember back in season 1, we had a game at Dublin too. That was a shocker, right?
Yeah. My big thing about DJ is like he played last year at Oregon State better than he played at Clemson. I'll give him that, and I think a lot of that is Clemson. And I don't like Dabo Swinney. I think he rode a lot of his players. He rode their coattails to to that success that they had at that time. So when they had that downfall, I don't think he was able to coach someone like DJ into like winning positions. And base so much of their success on just those players. And when he struggled, they almost, like you said, they almost didn't come out of that Georgia Tech game. But I think this Florida State team, they've revamped their defensive line. They just got Marvin Jones Jr. too as a defensive end. I mean, and like another corner from Alabama. I mean, they're stacked on offense and defense. I just don't see them coming close in this one.
Nah. I mean, it should be a beat down. So with that said, what is your upset pick of this week?
I don't have one, man. I looked at the games and I couldn't find one. Like I looked at like SMU and Nevada, and then I was like, well, Nevada won 2 games last year, dog. And then like I'm going a little bit further in SMU. They're coming into the ACC. They returned 10 of their 11 best defensive ends. Their quarterback comes back. He has a 5-to-1 touchdown interception ratio, and one of the best backfields in the nation. It's just like there was nothing there. And then you look at it's like 25 with the points. I'm just like, there's nothing. Man. There's nothing on this one on this slate that's like, yeah, this one's gonna be an upset pick. Like, like week 1, week 2, like the real weeks, you might be like, yeah, that's an upset pick. Like maybe Alabama over Michigan, something coming up. But there is nothing in week 0 for me to take on this one.
No, there's not. And even I think Delaware and Hawaii is like 25.5 points. It's not even close. Like all these games are kind of washes. Again, you hope for Georgia Tech and see if they can sting the Seminoles, but I doubt it. So that's tough. The one thing that we did not do, man, that we normally do like before we start week 0 is talk about our picks for the season. Heisman's, dark horses and stuff like that. I kind of want to get your thoughts on these guys. I have guys that I like a lot that I've liked for a couple years now, that stayed in school, transferred a little bit, kind of hung around. But for you, who is your dark horse pick for the Heisman?
No, you go first. I think I know who yours is going to be.
Okay, so I got 2 guys, actually. Okay. 2 guys. I have Devin Neal. I've liked Devin Neal for a long time. It's not really about so much because if we talk about Daniels, the quarterback, what I think is also he's kind of in the running as well. I've seen him as the odds favorite, but I just like Devin Neal, man. I like his skill set. I like him as a pro. I just think he's a fantastic running back, playing with a quarterback that will keep defenses honest enough, even his mobility as well. So I think they would feed off each other really, really well in that sense. So I do like Devin Neal as a pick. But also, man, Cam Ward in Miami.
I knew it.
Yeah, man.
I knew it.
So, I mean, he got the bag from the NIL deal. I've thought that this guy was just a true special kind of player. And just the way he went out in the Pac-12 last year against the top teams that were ranked, that was Washington, Oregon State. Like, he dropped, I think, 400 a game. Like, he was smoking, man. Smoking. Then they get the transfer receiver to go with Restrepo. And, of course, one of my favorite players coming up is Damian Martinez, the running back. I think he's a stud, man. I might have said it last year, but I get Steven Jackson vibes out of him as far as his stature, his build, rugged type of dude, 20 years old, got a lot of tread on the tire, man. I just think that team, they got it, man. They got it. I'm not hating on the U, man, but they got it. So they're also a pick of mine for something else, but yeah.
Yeah, the big thing for Cam Ward is a lot of people, because he played out out west. He's 48-16 a touchdown interception ratio over the past couple of years. Like he's money. And then like you said, Damian Martinez, he's an Oregon State transfer. He's a good running back. He pulled them through a couple games last year. I remember watching him, but yeah. So I don't know if it's a dark horse at this point, but it's got to be someone who ascended really fast, and it's going to be Will Howard for Ohio State. He's 6'4", 240. They said they clocked him running 22 mile an hour at practice. But I mean, you got let's see, Jeremiah Smith, Carnell Tate, Emeka Ibuka. That's your wide receiving core. That's one of the best ones in the nation. You got Quinshawn Judkins and Travion Henderson as your running backs.
Too much, man.
And you have Chip Kelly as your offensive coordinator, even though he's not a very good head coach. He's a very good offensive mind.
Yeah.
And then he's gonna perform. But then you have the big games, like the big defensive games. You're going to have the big game against Iowa. Always has a good defense. You're going to have the game against the super hyped Oregon Ducks. And, that's crazy hype in itself. Then you got Penn State, the defensive game. And then the last game of the season, Michigan, rivals, defending national championships. Like he's going to have 4 big games to prove himself. Yeah, Ohio State's schedule is kind of soft this year. I'll tell you that right now. I'm gonna honk it on this podcast through this entire season. But he's gonna have 4 big games, and he's gonna have to show out because he's got top tier recruits behind him, sniffing himself.
Mm-hmm.
behind like Devin Brown. You have Julian Sand. You have I think Aaron Nolan's I think he's redshirted, but I mean you have those other quarterbacks that are there sitting there waiting. They name you. You come from Kansas State where you did put up big numbers at the end of your career there, and now you get the best possibility, the best weapons, the best training facility, blah blah blah. Like you better go out and do it, because those other guys that are you're gonna have your Joe Miltons up there. You're gonna have Cam Ward's gonna be up there in the running. All those guys that running back from Oklahoma. I think it's just those guys are all gonna be there, and this is his
Gordon
time.
and stuff.
This is his time to shine. So that's my dark horse. I think he's like 7-1 or something like that. But
Yeah, man. I think the reason why I think you hit on the head is it's the Chip Kelly aspect, and it's pace and points.
Yep.
That's all it is, pace and points. If you can drown the opponents in points, that's the key. And this is where you kind of get the upgrade. And no slight towards them, but you get the upgrade over Kyle McCord. You get a guy that has experience, and I believe Kansas State has CFP experience as well, if I'm not mistaken, or at least a Big 12 title game experience. So he had that in the mix as well. I think that's the key. It's just the experience. Now, the one thing about this, though, with all that you mentioned, it puts a bullseye on the head coach.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, this is make or break.
This is the one. This is it.
Yeah.
Soft schedule.
Yeah, this is it. They literally giving you everything you wanted and more. Like if you don't make it happen this year, gone.
Yeah. I mean, I don't love Ohio State, but if they went to Thanos dust, I wouldn't miss it. But that's one of the big ones too. I think that's key. I think just again, Kelly, weapons, pace, points, the receivers, the running backs, and I think you get the graduate transfer as well in the middle from I think Notre Dame, not Alabama. I could be getting that twisted here.
Yep.
Big boy in the middle. So I think that's a big one. And you're calling national title, right? Is that the one we're picking?
Yeah, I mean it's bust. Natty or bust for them. It's got to be. No other way. I mean, if you don't, I mean, with the 12 teams, you can lose to Michigan, but I don't think he survives losing to Michigan again. There's no way.
Nah.
No way. Like I said, with the 12 teams, you can still make it into that 12-team playoff, go on and win the national championship. But if you lose to Michigan again, man, people in Columbus, they're gonna want his head.
Well, he never. Again, we say it a lot. He never beat Hardball, and that one stings a lot, man.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm riding the wave here, and I'm also taking Miami as the dark horse for the national title as well. I felt pretty good about them last year, kind of what they were doing with the quarterback, but the quarterback didn't give them enough. Van Dyke just didn't give them enough offensively. They started kind of, I think, 4-0. They kind of went 5-3 to end the season. Just struggled a lot to close the year. But I think now, just again, the imports are fantastic, what they got there. I just think now they're going to find their footing a bit under Cristobal as well. So I think I'm kind of feeling Miami. If Miami could somehow push themselves into the ACC echelon, again, it's a push. It's a major push. But if they can kind of get there and get past somehow Florida State, who knows, man? I mean, it's tough.
I mean, all you got to be is basically top 2 in your conference, and you're going to make it.
That's it. Man.
Championships don't really matter. But your conference championship won't even matter anymore. You make it into that top 2. I mean, you're almost guaranteed a spot.
And that's why being in a Power 5 is so beneficial. Yeah. That's exactly why. You know what? I want to add this here. I have to, because this is kind of a shoot from the hip. Who is the player most likely to disappoint this year, or program, or anything like that? I know who it is.
Oh, USC.
Damn, I'm going for the haymakers.
That's who I want to lose. USC. I mean, it's they've had like the Rose Bowl and stuff like that, but these people say like Lincoln Riley ran from Oklahoma because he was gonna have to play in the in the SEC. I mean, yeah, as we've seen in the national championship game, playing Pac-12 to Big Ten, it's a whole different ball game. Like that Michigan team, they absolutely shut down Washington. Anything anything they thought, Penix could do this, Penix could do that, and they shut that team down, and they did it a certain way, and they just kept doing it. You knew what was coming, and you just couldn't stop it. And and there is different styles of play in the Big Ten compared to, like the high flying offenses that you see in the Pac-12 or the aforementioned Pac-12. But I mean, they're like Ohio State plays completely different than Michigan. But then you have Luke Fickell in Wisconsin now. He's got an air raid offense. I mean, Penn State, they'll run the ball down your throat, but then they can still throw it all over you if they want to, and then they'll hit you with their defense. But it's crazy. But I think USC is gonna be the team that disappoints. But yeah, I mean, you could just say Colorado and just
that's the one. That's the one. That's the one. Because I do think that there's a lot of expectation on them. And the program is going to be in a good spot because the program is moving on to, I mean, for where they were a couple years ago and where they are now into the spotlight, it will help their recruiting. So that's the one thing. But I don't think that they're ready to compete right now in this conference. And I think that's the thing that I'm worried about. Again, I like Kansas a lot. So I like Kansas in the Big 12. I just think
Utah.
Yeah, Utah, because you get Cameron Rising for his seventh year, 6th year, something like that. COVID exception. So I mean, they pack a solid defense once again, a good running game, and a quarterback that has all the moxie to get it done, and tight ends to boot. Mm-hmm. Like they've got it all figured out. It's Utah, man. I just think the team is going to disappoint. That's probably going to do it anyway. People still have the buzz around them. Is Colorado. I just don't think they have enough. Offensively, they don't have much of a running game, and I don't hate on the quarterback. I like the guy. I don't think he sees the field that well. I just don't think he sees it. Yeah, man. So
plays a lot of hero ball.
Yep. Just like his daddy. But it's all love, man. Besides that, man, any last thoughts before we wrap the show tonight?
No, I mean, I'm looking forward to this. They really kicks off next week, but it's good to get on with you. We haven't talked since the national championship game, so we get on here and the flow's still there. So that's good for me.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, I'm excited for this, and it's an ACC game, but it's going to be a fun ACC game. I think. I
agree. I definitely agree. I think it's going to be closer than what it indicates. It's going to be a 3-score win, maybe, but I think we'll have fireworks. But something to talk about. Yep. One last note, man, I want to kind of bring up, though, man, for the listeners out there. Tyler, as you know, man, we are doing our NCAA Cash Online League. For anyone interested out there, it's pretty much simple. Get in the pot, you win the natty, get the bag. Very easy. Anyone who wants to get in on this, man, hit me in the comments section or on Twitter at SDQ Flight Crew. Have a good time. Kick it with us. But for me, LP Cruz and Tyler Moore, this has been the Freshman 15 College Football Podcast. Peace.